Thank you very much for coming. I'm pretty good at projecting my voice, which is good because we don't really have a PA set up here. And happily, the other two presenters we have today, one is Corey, and he's used to working in the woods, so he projects really well. And the other is a school teacher, and believe me, he knows how to make his voice be heard. So that's a good thing. But having said that, we do have a microphone up here, and that's so this meeting will be recorded by Cat TV, and we have the mic so that those questions and input from everyone can be heard clearly on that recording. So first of all, thank you all again for coming. It's really great to see so many people here for this public meeting about the Wye Woods. So we're going to start by giving you a little information in these presentations about the Wye Woods. Many of you are neighbors, and you're all unified in one thing, that we all love the Wye Woods. And we really want what is best for that land and for the community moving forward. So we have these two presentations by these presenters that I mentioned. They will give you a lot of background about the Wye Woods, sort of how we got to where we are today. And then most importantly, we're going to be looking to all of you for your input and thoughts on what could and should happen in the Wye Woods in the future. So mostly today, we're looking for input. Those ideas, we're not really going to be judging ideas at this meeting, so we want to hear everyone's thoughts and ideas. This is all going to be raw material that will go to our partners who will be working on a management plan that you'll be hearing more about. And then in the fall, once they have a management plan, if you're just coming in, please do grab a chair from the back, or there are still some seats still available if you want to settle in. Thanks for coming. So the second piece of this is the management plan presentation, the draft management plan, and that's the opportunity where there's really going to be a dialogue on the merits of what sort of things you want to have. So really, today, think of it as the first course in your dinner. We want your input, and the second course will happen in the fall when we have that draft management plan to look at. The way we're going to get your input is once the presentations are over, and it's about 20 to 25 minutes of presentation time, we're going to turn the mic over to anyone here that would like to provide input on the Wye Woods. But we also are aware that not everyone wants to get up in front of a camera, talk into a microphone. That's fine. We have provided index cards on the tables. There's also some index cards over on the little table by the entrance where you can write down your question. And towards the end, we will collect those and read them off. So we don't want people being concerned about talking on mic to not give their input. Likewise, my business card is also on that table. If you'd rather call or email in your input afterwards, you're welcome to do so. And finally, on the website, for those who are not able to be here today, a recording of this meeting and a comment form is available on the Town of Bennington's website, where you can watch the proceedings if you weren't here to watch it live, or if you want to comment later, or if you have an epiphany while you're having your breakfast in a future day of something you meant to say, you still have that opportunity. We're going to leave that public comment open for at least a month, or until people are done commenting. So with that, I guess I'm going to turn it over to our first presenter, and I'm very happy to introduce to you Corey Cregan. He's our county forester, and he's also going to probably wax a little more eloquent in terms of the roles he has here. Corey.
Okay, so my name is Corey Cregan. I am the Bennington County Forester with the Vermont Department of Forest, Parks, and Recreation. And part of my job is working with towns to protect forest land and manage that forest land. Today, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the projects I have currently going with the town of Bennington, and then also talk a little bit about moving forward with the project I see for the Wye Woods and developing a forest management plan. So there's a long history of collaboration between the county forester and the town of Bennington. I have records in my files going back to the 50s showing 60, almost 70 years of collaboration at this point. that is working on everything from projects to developing forest management plans for various town forests, implementing responsible timber harvesting projects, and then also doing things like tree plantings. This photo here is taken last year, myself and the retired county forester Jim White standing next to one of the trees that he helped plant in 1972 during the 72 tree planting, where we planted, I think, just over 100 trees in downtown Bennington. And that project actually ended up being a model for towns throughout the rest of Vermont. So some of the more recent management we've been doing or projects we've been working on was developing a forest management plan, sure thing, for 2 parcels owned by the town of Bennington, one in Woodford, one in Pownell. Through those management plans, we were able to enroll both of those parcels in the use value appraisal or current use program, which legally protects them from development and commits them to remaining forest land. We also enrolled them in the tree farm program. Both of those parcels are now certified tree farms, which means they're just held to another additional set of high standards. Those management plans go into detail about the natural communities present, species composition in the forest, forest health issues, wildlife habitat, and then it'll also go into detail about the trail system. Are there erosion issues? It'll make recommendations about actions we can take to promote forest health, diversity, resiliency, and they do also make recommendations for how we can manage to produce responsibly sourced timber products. So over the past 3 years, we've been working to implement those management recommendations. Some of the active management we've been doing has been this picture on the left. We're installing water bars, which are erosion control measures on the skid trails. These function to take any water that is running down the skid trail or the logging road, divert it off so that it loses its speed, it spreads back out into the forest floor and percolates back down into the groundwater system, rather than continuing to run down the trail and continuing to erode. This picture on the right is an example of some of the harvesting we've been doing. Here we've been targeting declining white ash. Much of it is almost dead at this point already. And we are leaving the healthy sugar maple, red oak, yellow birch, and beech in place so that we have a healthy, intact forest even after our harvesting is done. Other places we're focusing that harvesting on diseased beech and red maple to favor retaining red oak, which is a very wildlife beneficial species to have around because of the acorns it produces. Other areas, we're creating canopy gaps so we can get a flush of new trees growing. So that is helping us create structural diversity as well as a diversity of species across this property. And then in other areas, we're managing more for wildlife habitat, specifically bear habitat, focusing on releasing beech trees that show evidence of repeated bear feeding. So last month, or a little bit longer than a month ago, Jonah and RJ Jolly, the Director of Public Works, approached myself and Eric Bishop, the instructor at Southwest Tech, about a potential management project for Y-Woods. We thought this was going to be a great opportunity to get myself, the town, the community, and Eric's students involved in a collaborative project. What I know about the Y-Woods is that it was acquired, I think, in the early 1970s through a combination of government funds, Rotary donations, and donations from private citizens, which shows me for decades now, this community has already been invested in the Y-Woods and protecting the Y-Woods. It is approximately 30 acres of forest land adjacent to residential neighborhoods, adjacent to the Park Lawn Cemetery. It is used for recreation. It is used as an outdoor classroom by students at Southwest Tech, and it currently has no management plan in place to guide any of those uses or guide its management into the future. So I want to impress on everyone how sort of unique the Y-Woods is in the fact that it is a relatively large block of contiguous forest land embedded in this landscape of highly fragmented, highly developed landscape, and I think that really highlights how imperative it is that we have a management in place that protects the Y Woods, guides how we're using it moving forward, so that we can guarantee it's going to continue to provide the same benefits into the future that it's providing now. Another aspect of the Y Woods that's unique is its use as an outdoor classroom, as an outdoor lab. The Y Woods and other forests like it provide opportunities for training and development of technical skills, for environmental education, for education in forest management and planning, and they also act as demonstration sites. They're few and far between, they're hard to come by, and I think it's really important we take advantage of that educational aspect because being immersed in the natural environment is a really valuable way to learn environmental education. I recently had the opportunity to work on the town of Forest Land Hawk Hill Preserve, owned by the town of Brandon. We were able to collaborate with students from Stafford Tech here, as well as students from Otter Valley Union High School and community members. Get the students out on the property, talk about the intersection of forest management, recreation, wildlife habitat, and then we were also able to harvest a small amount of timber from that town-owned forest land to use in the renovations to the Brandon Public Library. So this was just a great opportunity to produce a tangible benefit for the community, as well as teach a lesson about the environmental impact of timber harvesting, take advantage of the educational opportunity, and get community engagement. With the Y Woods, I think we have an opportunity to really up that game on community engagement and on the educational opportunity. So we're not starting from scratch here. There's a long history of environmental education occurring on town-owned forest land here in Bennington. I think Eric's going to go a little bit more into detail about exactly how his students have been using the Y Woods when he's up presenting. But I think we have a really good opportunity to expand sort of the educational aspect of this through guidance and input from myself, guidance and input from the town, from community members, and of course from their instructor Eric. I want students at Southwest Tech to take a leading role in developing this management plan. I think it's going to be a really valuable educational experience for them. And it will also be really valuable for preserving the Y Woods and will be a benefit for the community. So we've already talked a little bit about what's in a forest management plan, description of the natural community, description of forest health, wildlife habitat, management recommendations, but really the essential aspect is defining the goals and objectives, deciding what we want to happen on this forest land. It's going to be the key aim of any forest management plan to define those goals and then synthesize an approach to how we're going to achieve them. Defining those goals creates a context for all other aspects of the plan. And it's the landowner who determines those goals and objectives. In this case, that's the town of Bennington, that's the residents. So this is where we need your input.
And I actually moved your input slide to the very end of Corey's.
Okay.
It's going to be
Or Eric's, yeah.
Eric's, because he's going to be right up next.
Okay, so some of the areas that I think you might have input on is the trail infrastructure. What do you want to see happen with the trails? How do you want to maintain those? You're going to have input on recreational opportunities. I want you to think about the fact that forest management often, or plans do often recommend active management, and that can include some degree of tree cutting or timber management. What level of that is acceptable to you? What goals and objectives do you want to see achieved through any sort of timber management? There's invasive species on this land. What priority would you place on management of those invasive species? What methods might be acceptable or unacceptable to you? What do you want to see as far as expanding educational opportunities? Do you have ideas about that? What do you want to see? Do you have questions or concerns about wildlife habitat or any other use of the property? So there would be a list up here
It's
slide
coming
rule.
up, I promise.
But I just
It'll be there.
want those examples to be sort of a primer for you to think about the different directions that management can take. It's not a complete list. So I think this is an awesome opportunity to produce a really good benefit for this community. And I thank you for having me and look forward to your input.
Thank you very
And
much.
that's it.
How was the volume? Were people hearing okay? We'd like it louder? Okay. Now, Eric, do you think you could project a little better for our next part of this? Is that okay?
I'm gonna try.
All right, very good. Thank you. This room is notorious for not having great acoustics. Eric, why don't you come on up? And happy to introduce our next presenter. This is Eric Bishop from the Southwest Tech, and I'll let him introduce himself. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you. How's it going, everybody? Thank you for coming out. I appreciate you supporting us as a school, a community, and everybody trying to work together. So, put together a little slideshow for you guys. Just wanted to tell you a little bit about me first. So this is actually my first year ever teaching. Very excited. It's been an awesome opportunity to kind of get me out of my comfort zone, try something new, and I'm loving it so far. So I'm originally from Virginia. I moved up here to Bennington for the job. I went to West Virginia University. I got a degree in forestry, and I was a tech school graduate myself. When I was in high school, I did the tech program. I did the welding program. Got a couple certifications in welding, and it was just an amazing opportunity. So anything I can do to, help these students the way that I was helped, I just want to give back the way that I was given to. So right out of college, I worked at a nature preserve back home. I managed 750 acres. That was literally my dream job. Loved going to work every day, managing the woods, managing the fields. Just an awesome opportunity, but it kind of seemed like, it was a job that you couldn't really progress in, and this seemed like such a great opportunity, so I couldn't pass it up. So usable property for the program. Southwest Tech actually doesn't own any of its own property, so we're 100% reliable on other people, such as the town of Bennington and other places that we can get the kids some hands-on experience. The town of Bennington has been very generous. They've provided us land to work on, such as Y Woods, the Burgess Road woodlot, and then the transfer station, getting the kids on the dozer, on the backhoe, getting to run chainsaws, our portable sawmill, our dump trucks. So, and then I wanted to give you some little background on what we learned in the classroom. So, topics we'll learn about, dendrology, which is identifying trees, forest management. So this is going to be a huge part of that, trying to come up with a forest management plan with the students, anything from going out measuring the trees, seeing what species are out there. Timber harvesting, that's what we've been doing on Burgess Road, cutting down the red pines there, sending them to Whitehall plywood, and then also getting firewood out of that as well. And then we can use our dozer to skid the logs. So and then we use our backhoe as well to kind of maneuver the logs around the landing, so we get to utilize all of our equipment. Sawmill operation and firewood processing, chainsaw operation, heavy equipment, and then when you're running heavy equipment, you're always breaking stuff, so we teach them about welding. And then something else I'd really like to get into the program that's not currently in there is maple syrup production. So kind of scoping out a few spots to tap some trees. The latest on that is we're working with the middle school to possibly build a sugar shack there. So we just need to find some trees, find a good spot for our sugar shack, and I think that would be a very educational thing to do for the students, especially here in Vermont where maple syrup's king, right? So the game of logging, wanted to tell you a little bit about that. So we do game of logging trainings level 1 through 4. I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with that, but I'm just going to explain a little bit on that. The students learn how to accurately and safely fell trees, and they learn about chainsaw safety and maintenance. It's a well-known and respected certification that will help students with job placements and be more successful upon completion of the forestry program. The town of Bennington has allowed us to have the game of logging training at Y-Woods back in October. So those of you that are neighbors or have seen Y-Woods, you might have seen our bulldozer up there, our backhoe, and then piles of firewood. So what we did, we went through and we found some beech. So we cut down beech. They were mainly all firewood grade, so not nice straight trees, kind of crooked. So we felled those. They gave the students an awesome opportunity to learn about chainsaws, learn how to safely fell trees. And we used our dozer and we skidded those down to the landing, and we've cut all that up for firewood. And as of today, we're all done at Y-Woods for now. Yep, mainly cut beech for firewood. So the current state of Y-Woods. We have spent the past several months working at Y-Woods, like I just explained to you. We have skid logs from the game of logging training down to the landing. We then cut and split the logs for firewood and sell that out to the community. All the profits go back into the forestry program from all the firewood we sell, so benefiting the students there. We've also flush cut stumps from previous years, and we've cut down hazard trees along the trails at Y-Woods to make it safer for hikers. So when we first started working up there was a few trees that were hung up in other trees just hanging over the trails. So we figured while we were up there with chainsaws, let's get those down safely and make it a little bit safer for hikers. Students have also used Y-Woods to learn how to identify different tree species. We spent about a week or two up there just hiking the trails, identifying the trees. We'll be learning about silviculture, since you can see previous land management efforts and how the forest reacts to those. It's an opportunity to learn how to create a forest management plan. I think that's a huge and awesome opportunity for these guys. We have also marked about 50 sugar maple trees to potentially tap so that students can learn about the process of making maple syrup. So if you guys have walked Y-Woods lately, seen that green tape around the trees, that's kind of what we were doing there. It's not for sure that we're going to tap trees, but it's just kind of an idea that we had. And then conclusion. So having a forest management plan for Y-Woods will not only be an incredible learning opportunity for these students, but it will also benefit the community by having a healthy forest, well-maintained trails for recreation, and improved habitat for wildlife.
So that was your missing slide. So this is a good way for us to thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
It's a good list to sort of help formulate the conversation we have next, which is really about the input. And again, these are just your ideas, your thoughts about the Y-Woods. And we are going to ask people who want to come up and speak here at this podium to share your thoughts or input. But also at these tables, as I mentioned earlier, there are those index cards. Go ahead and write down your question if you'd rather do it that way. There's also some cards by the table and my business card as well. If none of that works for you, you can always reach out to me later or go to our website to comment. Having said that, I know there are some questions out there. Would anyone like to start the conversation? Please come up, and I'm going to ask you to come around this side of the podium just to avoid some of the cables we have on the ground. We'll just have you come around this side. Yeah.
There's only one cable,
There's one cable there and two here, so right?
and they're bigger. My name is Gabrielle Eisenbrand. I live on Margaret Lane, so I'm kind of almost abutting the Y-Woods. And I have a couple of concerns or questions. One is regarding heavy equipment, And if and when heavy equipment is brought in, what is being done to restore the habitat after these are big objects, big heavy objects being driven into the woods. The other is about enhancing bear habitat. I love bears, I love wildlife. We just recently had a bobcat, actually last night we had a bobcat in the neighborhood, which is cool. I do get a little antsy about encouraging bears in a residential neighborhood.
So actually, I'm going to jump in. You want to clarify that? Thank you.
Yeah, the bear
Actually, could you come up to do that?
So
though, we get you on
I'm
mic?
set, that's it.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Thank you for being the first to come up. That's always good.
I made it over the cable.
Thank you.
The bear habitat work we've been doing, I didn't mean to associate that with Y Woods. That's on a different parcel that we've been managing in Pownell, actually way up on the mountain, up high elevation, not anywhere near residential neighborhoods.
We do have bears, though.
You do.
We do, absolutely. But thank you for clarifying that, because I don't think many of us would agree. I think we would agree that cultivating bear habitat right in the middle of town is probably not a priority for us.
Not a goal and objective.
Not a goal and objective. Who else would like to come up and speak? Or please, Ned, come on up.
Yeah, Ned Perkins. I live down on South Stream Road in Bennington down at the end, so I drive up this way all the time. And I just want to say, I really support the CDC and the technical education. You know, my son went to boat building school down in Rhode Island, and I've seen what a difference, the education made to him, but it also transformed the community. And boat building down in Newport is big business. And, we don't have water here, but we got trees. We've got a national forest right up here. And this could be, our water. And I just really say I really support the CDC for this. The other thing, and maybe, Joni, you could put the map up here, but when I drive down here, and there's the Y Woods, and then there's all the Greenberg area, but there's also all the property that the state bought up for the southern extension of the bypass, which goes all the way from Hojo's, the old Hojo's building on Route 7, and not even, it's over here, and then all this property down below here. There's a whole swath of property that is either state-owned or town-owned that could all, and you could have recreational paths going all the way from Route 7 all the way over to the Beach Street playground. And then there's the town forest, which is south of this property, maybe a half a mile or so. And there's a couple of big landowners, and it's the Salems and the Stromeyers. And if you could get access, if you could get permission, you could have trails going from the Y Woods all the way down to the town forest, down to Niles Road, and maybe up to the Green Mountain National Forest. And we really don't have good access to the Green Mountain National Forest in the southern part of town. You can get up on the White Rocks. That's a good access, but we don't have a good place to get up here. And I remember a little while ago, I think it was Tim Van Orden made a presentation to the select board about the potential for Bennington to become a training center for athletes. And, having a network of trails like that is the sort of thing that could really help build this. So I just want you to all think about the potentials.
Great comments. Thank you. Who else would like to come up? Come on up.
You're Joan, right?
Yes.
Building department. Nice to meet you. I'm going to skip that thing.
Oh, actually, would you mind standing by the microphone just so that Cat TV will be able to record it?
All right.
Thank you very much.
I'm out here.
Appreciate it.
I'm Billy Martin, and I don't play baseball. I can tell there's some older people with me. Good. I live right here. Let's see, right there. And I'm kind of a wanderer, and I'm part of the Green Mountain Club. And part of our Green Mountain Club is to keep trails open. So whenever I feel a little down or I need some exercise, I go up to the Y Woods. And so I'm part of the invisible group of people who've been keeping those trails open. And I love it. I mean, I just really love it. Every time you go up there, there's another tree that's fallen down. And people are really creative. They just go right around it. Some people chop it. Some people, there's an outer perimeter, an inner perimeter, 3 or 4 crosses, and lots of places to feel confused if you don't understand where you are in Bennington. And we try to assure people, look, if you hear the traffic, that's Highway 7. You know, if you get to the mortuary, well, don't take residence there, but at least you can go out to the highway. We like going over to, and this is one of my questions for everybody, is this an actual owned property right at 303, the McCarthy's?
That is part of the property, that is correct.
Okay. Well, that's been the invisible thing that the first time we moved here, to sort of walk on somebody's property and not know that it's okay. I mean, you really don't know that that is legal. And then as soon as you get in there, you find this giant radio tower. I don't know what the YMCA did or whether it was the Bennington emergency system, but it's an eyesore.
The tower has been removed.
Oh, already? Last couple weeks then.
Oh, maybe I stand corrected because I didn't see it there.
Okay, anyway.
My bad.
There's a lot of concerns that several of us have been talking about, and one is that when you're in the Y Woods, you can feel like you're really in the Y Woods. The other day when the Forest Management Group was there, I was frightened. I mean, it was noisy, and I didn't understand what their reason for being there was, and their green striping trees and whatever. It all looks good. I'm not against that management system. It's just that I've seen land programs thin so quickly that suddenly it's noisy inside the forest because all the extra city noise comes in. It's not the biggest road here. This is your Middle Pownell Road, and that's your South Stream? No, Morgan. So when you're inside this area here, it's unbelievable. It's just like if you get way over here, yeah, you hear the highway. In the autumn, and you start dropping leaves, you hear a little more noise. Some of our concerns is that the people that live around here have enjoyed it for years without a whole bunch of kids running around. There are people that run their dogs off leash, polite, kind, well-meaning, but 2 dogs off leash and you got to fight. So the more people you put in here, through good management, you're going to have some issues. I think the people that live on the perimeter, on Margaret and on Crescent Pond and on that other little crescent, are we going to put a fence to keep the wildlife from passing through? Are the people who have homes here, are they still able to have their own way into the forest? These are just questions. I don't have an answer, just that it's going to come up sooner or later that how do I, who have a house right there, get in there? And what's really interesting, there's like a buffer around this property where you don't even see the houses. I hope that we always hide the houses so it looks and acts like a forest. Trails are really unique. There is one eyesore, as far as I know, when you're hiking and down in this section here where the mortuary is. I don't know who puts all that trash back there. I think it's the mortuary. Everybody who takes their potted plants to their loved ones, the plastic ends up in that part of the property. So someone's going to have to maintain the discipline between the mortuary and the landowners. I love it. I just think it's the greatest thing in the world. And there is an invasive species. Several groups of us, some people right here with us, have tried several times to remove the garlic mustard. It's a 2-year rotational crop. It's really hard to get out, but it's really, really growing. We've had a lot of help with the Mile Around Woods people in helping get their invasive species out. So I hope that that's in the management plan because it's not an insecticide or an herbicide type of issue. It's just manpower. They come up easy. Their root systems are really narrow or low, shallow. You just pull it up, put it in the black bag, take it somewhere. I don't know what you do. We let them out in the sunshine till they die and then throw them away. So I think that's about the things that we've been talking about at home and with some other people. Anybody got questions about that place and stuff like that? I do know that for years and years, this lower section here, right about, let's see, where's your street? Right about in here. It's been kind of a, what's going to happen down there? You can see where people must have had a chainsaw party, and they would try to show their expertise, and they would cut slots down in certain pieces of wood, and they'd inject their chainsaws and make kind of like an artistic display. We never knew sure what they were doing. This is for years now. It's not, so hopefully you can train your people carefully on the use of a chainsaw. There are some really beautiful sections of the woods, and the woods have very different places, even though that, I don't know how many acres that is.
30 acres.
30 acres. Well, different corners of it have different feelings, and I'm really glad for that. So anyway, if you guys want to go out there and clean up some things, great. I hope it doesn't become illegal, that we pick up a few sticks once in a while. We don't use chainsaw, I'm sorry. Anyway, those are my thoughts.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate that. Other thoughts or comments? Yes, why don't, and then we'll do you next, sir. Jim.
So my name's Haley Grossman. I actually work at the high school. I actually worked with Eric, actually. One of the things, and I live on Margaret Lane. So I, first off, didn't know it existed until I talked to Eric that we had a Y Woods. So that was helpful to know. And I've used it with my husband. We go cross-country skiing, we go snowshoeing. Our Nordic ski team actually runs there for training. So one of the things I've noticed, because I go there a lot and we have a lot of people who walk their dogs, I'm really glad Southwest Tech has that access, but what I was noticing is with the warmer weather, it's been rutted. So it's actually been challenging for some of our Nordic ski team to actually practice, and it's been a little bit harder for those who are walking, like pedestrians, to walk and not feel as if they're gonna slip and fall. I am glad we have it as a school classroom, but I would be curious to explore if we can have walking trails, and then if we do have logging, as long as it's appropriate, we have a separate trail for that. And I would also love to find a way to connect the high school, because I know Southwest Tech does it, but the high school, we have physical science, we have environmental science, we have biology, we have classes that would benefit from a lot of hands-on learning, especially here in Bennington, where half of our kids live outside. They enjoy being outside, they enjoy exploring, they enjoy kind of learning how to be a survivor in the woods, because that's what they do every day. So if with this management plan, I would just like to consider that this is a great teaching tool for our kids and for the community members. It's a great way to escape the world, especially if you don't have a car or somewhere like that. It's easy to get to because it's about 2 minutes from downtown. So if someone lives but they don't have a car, it's not too hard for them to get there, but we need access points, because I didn't even know we had it, and the access point that I use I thought was private property until I learned that it wasn't. So I am excited to figure out how to work out well, but I am concerned that I don't want it to go one way so that we don't have the walking trails and the nature, because thank you Green Mountain Club, I do see that there are people maintaining it without having to maintain it, so I appreciate for those community members who are doing it. And I just hope that when we think of this, we are considering both sides, that this is a teaching program, this is a great place to teach, it's not too far from the schools, it's easy to get to, but it's also a huge benefit to our community members who use it basically on a daily basis to exercise and to get outside, especially if it's hard for them to get anywhere else. So, thank you.
Really great comments. Thank you. Jim.
Thank you, Jonah. Yeah, let's see, I actually live in North Bennington now, but a number of years ago we rented an apartment off South Street in the neighborhood here, and I can tell you that as a trail runner, I use those trails frequently, and I recognize how important it is to have something like this for residents in the neighborhood. I don't get over there as much now. Sometimes I'll run a loop and connect through there, but I tell you, when we lived there, and I know for the folks who live there now, I'm sure it's a great resource. And in my job that I recently retired from, we actually developed some planning documents for the town of Bennington that recognize that specifically, the recreational asset that something like that right in the center of the community provides, and it really is an outstanding resource for that. And related to that, as far as the educational aspect of it, a lot's been made of the environmental and the logging and stuff, and I would just like to emphasize and encourage folks who are looking at that for an educational resource to look at opportunities to do some training in the area of outdoor recreation management, trail construction and maintenance, construction of related amenities like possibly trail signs and kiosks, benches, things like that. You know, if you go to some of the demonstration forests around where, like, you know, Paul Smith's College in the Adirondacks has some, and you know, they obviously use them as an outdoor laboratory for these things, and they're really, really nice. You know, I mean, they're like the best trails I've ever been on in my life. And there really is, in addition to the fact that it's great for residents to have those types of assets, it really is a good opportunity for students to learn that, because it is a growing field, outdoor recreation, and it's an important economic driver for our region and our state, and I think that we need more people trained in doing that kind of work. So I just wanted to highlight that. And my last comment, I have to say, I'm a trail runner, and I run with my dogs off leash all the time. I want to speak for the dogs. I have run with my dogs off leash for decades, and they have never had a fight with another dog, ever. So, for that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, and I think we can thank the BCRC for doing a GPS mapping of the trails that are there now. So if you look on the town's website at the trail map, those trails that are shown there is a result of that work. Thank you very much. Yeah, please come on up.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Eric Russell. I live on Pine Circle, and I live there. For the last 50 years, that's where I've lived. And so the Y Woods has been my playground. I know all these trails in the back of my hand, and it's good to see people enjoy them. Mr. Martin I ran into one day behind my house. How are you today, Mr. Martin? And on the not so positive side, it's a little disconcerting being a resident there and seeing people just drifting through the woods. You know, a lot of them are mostly hiking and doing what they're supposed to do, but then you see other people who come in and they're just standing there staring at your house, and it makes you a little bit nervous. Especially since, you know, Pine Circle's close to Route 7, and the people now that occupy the hotels and, you know, such down there, who knows who's gonna come up through, especially if that, you know, area down there is built up. I'm all for, you know, preserving the woods, making the woods healthier and better. I think it's good because there is a lot of, you know, dead trees and things that can be cleaned up. And the animal species, if it can help them, that's great, because we have, you know, deer and fox and raccoon and bear and possums and, you know, you name it, and, you know, we have it, and it's awesome, and I don't want to lose that at all. And I'm just going to quote a few things from Richard Prada, was an old selectman in Bennington, and when there was the meetings were going on in the 70s about what to do with the Y Woods. And as far as I'm concerned, and I'm pretty sure I saw this on the actual deed, is that the Y Woods have to remain forever wild. Nothing can be built on it. I mean, not even a kiosk can be built in the Y Woods. The Y Woods is the Y Woods. It has to be wild. But he said, confine recreation to where it presently is. Leave that alone. There's plenty of places to recreate in Bennington. There's plenty of woods to recreate in Bennington. The Y Woods don't need to be expanded upon to have more trails. They have the trails there they have are good enough. I can get from Pine Circle to South Stream Road, up this trail down there and there and in. Piece of cake. And there's all kinds of little trails that, go on throughout there. We don't need to, build new trails because the trails are there. They've been there for 50 years. And, we don't need an additional, 20 trails to, make other people happy who may or may not use them. And the last thing I'm going to say is our old town manager, Luis Sorales, I think I'm saying that right, said open undeveloped space is one of the most valuable possessions a town can have. And that's what the Y Woods is. It's open and undeveloped, and it's got to stay that way. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to speak? I see, yep, come on up.
I think I can manage the two cords.
Be careful, be careful.
I'm Jock Irons, and I grew up right there. And also played in Wide Woods when I was a kid. I used to be the president of the board of directors of the One World Conservation Center. And unfortunately, we had to close down. And as part of that process, we gave 95 acres of the Greenberg Conservation Reserve to the town of Bennington, which is just barely off the map. Here, there's an entrance right at that curve, but there's 95 acres. There's probably about between 8 and 10 miles of trails. A number of us met with the state VTrans, or whatever they call themselves now, to talk about building a trail along the southern bypass right away between the Greenberg wetlands, or what do we call that now?
Headwaters Preserve.
Headwaters Preserve to the Greenberg Reserve. And I believe Dan Monks was at that walk in the woods, and I believe they gave us permission to build a trail connecting those two properties. So I would highly recommend trying to work the Y Woods into that same trail system, and that would give a much bigger area for the people that are not like me, but maybe like Jim, that like to run long distances. And I would also like to talk a little bit about what Corey's predecessor, Kyle Mason, had this vision of creating an educational outdoor lab at the Greenberg Reserve, in which there would be small demonstration silvicultural harvests, so that Kyle, as the Bennington County Forester, could say to a landowner who he's recommending, well, you need to do a patch cut or give me another silvicultural treatment.
Single tree select.
Yeah, that's hard to see though. But anyway, his idea was that reluctant landowners could come and Kyle could say, okay, this area, the size of this room, was treated 5 years ago, and this is what it looks like now. Because there's no way for a landowner that's not trained in forestry to get from the mess that is a recent harvest to what it's going to be like in 5 to 10 years. and what is the importance of these silvicultural treatments in creating better forests. And I would like to recommend to the town that somebody follow up on that in the Greenberg Reserve. There might be other treatments that might happen in the Y Woods, I don't know. But anyway, I strongly support the outdoor lab idea.
Thank you, John.
And trails.
Does the town own the old Howard Johnson building?
No, we sold that as a separate entity, and it's owned by somebody in town, Dwayne Greenwald. Greenwald?
Greenwald.
Yeah.
Any other people that would like to speak? Yep, come on up, Carrie. Watch your step. I managed to.
My name is Carrie Fabricius, and I'm the current director of the Bennington Senior Center. Before I took that position, I was at the Rec Center for about 13 years. So for those people who are having a hard time understanding how much space 30 acres is, the Rec Center grounds, including the building, tennis courts, where the garden is, green space, and the ball fields is about 9 acres. So we're talking, it's quite a bit of space when you're over tripling that. So it's a space that doesn't need to necessarily have just one use. I think there's enough space to have multiple uses. Several years ago, I had asked the teenagers that would hang out outside the rec center, what would you guys like to see? What do you want to do? And they told me paintball, boxing, and mixed martial arts. And so I said, great, they want to beat each other up and then shoot each other. But I had asked about paintball at the time, is there a reason that we couldn't have a paintball league? Because a lot of places do. And I was told, we really couldn't do that at Willow Park. And I said, what about Y Woods? Oh, I'll have to look into that. And then never heard anything more. Personally, I would prefer laser tag because doesn't make the mess that paintball does. But I mean, a little course would take an acre maybe out of that 30, and you'd still have plenty of room to do educational stuff, do logging, and I think it would be a good thing it's a good way for kids to be able to do something that's not completely destructive, and there's not teenagers always say we need something for teenagers to do. So that's my 2 bits.
Thank you very much. Other thoughts or ideas? Yes, come on up. And remember, this is just about expressing as many ideas as we have, so. Yep.
My name's Tim Wheeler, and with BC, we live right here. And we love being near the Y Woods, and it's really an important part of our day. And we love everything about it. And I want to commend you, Jonah, and Corey, and Eric for undertaking a management plan. I think it's really important. If it hasn't been done before, I think it's high time to do it. And I would like to just take a minute and ask you to take a minute repeatedly as you go through this process of putting together a management plan to step back. We've heard a lot of advocacy for different uses of this land, including recreation and paths and paintball and gazebos, and to maybe reflect for a minute that the Y Woods has value as it is, just what it is. It's a woods, and we humans have used it and like to use it for a lot of different reasons. But there are other stakeholders as well who have an interest in the future of the Y Woods. So yes, have training in silviculture, but also let's have training in ecology so that we learn how to promote better harvests of trees, but also we understand that the newts and the salamanders live in the leaves and depend on that refuge before they run down to the headwaters and reproduce. So the Y Woods provides a lot of different functions, a lot of refuge in many different forms for a lot of species besides the humans. So I'd like to advocate for that. I think it is supremely well positioned to use for education, and I would like to throw out another way. The Y Woods, if you look at it carefully when you walk through it, really is a small snapshot of our history of land use here in Vermont. When the first settlers came, they were greeted with huge forests, which they immediately cleared for agriculture, as was that plot of land. They built highland farms, just like that. You can still see the stone walls. You can still see what I call guard trees that are along those stone walls that are significantly older than any of the other trees. And then as the highland agriculture declined, people went down in the valleys and had cows, and those highlands went back to forests, just like the Y Woods. The next step was many of those pastures were sold for subdivision, just like the Y Woods. So the Y Woods is a really neat little snapshot of our history of interacting with the land here in Vermont. So it's a pretty neat thing. Thank you.
Tim, thank you very much. One point of clarification. The originator of this idea was R.J. Jolie, our Director of Public Works. He was the one who brought this team together for this effort. Just want to be clear on that. Other people that want to speak? I see one more person. Come on up. Thank you.
My name is Donna Main, and I've heard a lot of stuff that I wanted to say, so I'm not quite sure if this is going to be anything different, but I use the Y Woods a lot, and I live up off of Middle Palmer Road, and I've been going by there my whole life. So I have seen a few people in there here and there, so I'm actually surprised about how many of you say you use it every day, because I actually go there for quiet and peace and alone time. I do like seeing people, and I don't mind that as well, but I've been using it for my own lab, studying wild herbs and wild plants and mushrooming, and so I kind of like it the way it is. I kind of don't want it messed with, but I do agree that I love the trails, but I think they need some maintenance. They're getting overgrown, so sometimes I get in there and I'm like, well, where'd that go? It kind of disappears. So I agree with all that. I agree with the forest management, because it's been pretty messy looking in there a little bit over the years. I'm like, what's this mess? But I also wonder, I don't know why you're cutting down the beech. I don't know what that's about. The beech and the, there was something else. But anyways, a lot of those trees in there are needed for the mycelium and the mushrooms. And beech is known for a lot of mushrooms, as well as lion's mane, which has been in there. And so I don't know what forest management is, but I just hope that they leave some of the down stuff. There's turkey tail, they're all medicinal. And if people are clearing all that out and taking that away, then you've kind of lost something that the ecosystem needs. I've also gone to the Nature Conservancy down to the Greenbergs, and used to walk down there looking for things on the trail. And a couple of years ago I went, and there's not a lot of elm trees left, and there was all these young, probably not in the greatest shape, but along the trail by the, I don't know if that's a swamp or what it is, but there would be mushrooms in there, and it was just nice to see elm trees again. And I went a couple of years ago, and somebody just cut them and made a mess. And the water had risen up and was almost going over the bank because there was no trees, and there were there was brush and things in there, and was all taken out. I'm like, what'd they do? Because now this is gonna wash in there, and there was nothing to protect it. So I don't know who did that, but, so yeah, I like the idea of the trails. I've seen people skiing in there. I've seen all the wildlife you said, plus the eagle and the hawk and owls and fox and possum. I've seen all that too. I'd like to keep it as natural as you could, but it would kind of be nice to have markings on the trail, because I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I've gotten lost in there. I mean, I didn't really get lost. I knew it wasn't a very big space that I could get out. But oh, and another thing I'm going to say is when I go over there, I try to be respectful. I see those houses right there on part of the trails, and if I go in there in the fall, my impression is, oh, I would hate if I was in my kitchen, I looked out and somebody was in my woods, maybe they're not your woods, but right in there. And I'm like, I don't think I would like that. So I try to be very respectful and quiet. And I walk by with a basket, and I'm like, oh my God, what are they thinking? So there's that, and there was one other thing. Oh, I've got a picture. I wish you could put up a video. I took it last fall. In the section, I don't really understand that map too good, but I think it's in here someplace along Route 7. There's a lot of pine and stuff. And yes, there is piles of garbage from the cemetery. And I don't think it's private citizens putting in there. I think it's who's picking up those buckets and dumping them that works at the cemetery. That's what my thought is. But in that section over there, I went last fall, and it was like a beautiful, soft pink fairyland. Just all these young trees. I don't know what they are. I've got this video of it, and I just went all around it, and it was just like, it was the most beautiful thing you ever saw. So, anyways, that's my thing. I love to walk there, and I hope it can stay wild, a little bit wild. Thank you.
Thank you. Why don't, Eric, would you mind going around gathering up any cards that people may have filled out? Does anyone have a card or something they'd like read? I see one person there, and there as well. So if you wouldn't mind going around and collecting those for me, I'll go ahead and read them out real quick. And then if you're still thinking about speaking, you can have another opportunity. Or if you want to speak right now while we're gathering those questions, feel free. So. And I will start with this question while he's going around. Okay. Oh. Thank you so much, Susan. Oh my goodness, come on up, please.
Hello, my name is Susan Strano, and my family lives right in here. So yes, when we do, somebody mentioned when you look out your window, you know, you can see people walking on the trail. Well, our bedrooms happen to bump up against the trail. And I relay a story. When we first moved here, I remember seeing bright lights coming up through our yard, and it was the police. And I went to the side door, and they said, get in the house, stay away from the windows. And I'm like, what's going on? We're after someone. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So it was a little alarming to begin with, but everything was fine. And we love it there. I mean, we just love our neighborhood, everybody in the neighborhood. I am so happy to hear about the educational opportunities for the students. And I think that's wonderful. I'm really happy to hear about, you know, controlling the invasive species and culling the woods so that the young saplings and the trees can come up and really have some solid growth. My concern is the more people that come in, the saplings could get trampled down, and some of the other plants could get trampled down. Who's going to be sure that the boundaries of the trails are respected? Many people who hike trails, walk trails, you know, stay on the trails. But the more people you bring in, the more, you know, kids, et cetera, that come up, which I'm all in favor of, I want to be sure that they respect the woods as much as the people who have lived with the woods do, and the wildlife that's in there. My concern is the more people that go in there, is the wildlife going to say, time to go? And, you know, we like the wildlife there. we watch the black bear saunter through the backyard. You know, he just walks along. And the fox and the owls and the woodpeckers, et cetera, et cetera. So while I'm in favor of the plans that were originally presented by Eric and Corey, I want to be sure that the community, if they come into the woods, has a level of respect for the woods and everything that is living in there. And to that end, I often wonder who's going to keep an eye on that. Who's going to come in if it's open from dawn to dusk? Who's coming in at 10 o'clock at night to be sure that there aren't, you know, kids in the woods, if there aren't people in the woods that shouldn't still be there? So that would be a question. I think that's all I have to say. I love the woods.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm going to read some questions here. I support removal of invasive species, especially garlic mustard, which is edible, by the way. I support having small, unobtrusive maps at some intersections to orient hikers. Organize and publicize garlic mustard pulling out events. A few rustic benches would be welcome. I like Jock Iron's suggestion of connecting trails to headwaters and the 95 acres given to the town by the One World Conservation. I'd like to see the woods renamed to Stephan Woods to honor Tom and Nancy Jean, who did a lot to maintain and map the trails. Great suggestions. Are there other written suggestions? Oh, you want to come up?
Yeah, I do.
Please.
I live on Margaret Lane, and right now there are maybe 2 parking spaces down here. And that's fine. People come, they park, they walk. It's lovely. But my concern is if we start doing things like paintball and things like that, what we're going to end up with is where do parents park when they drop their kids off for that? You know, how do people get in and out? Also, right now it's a kind of an open secret that the Y Woods is there. When we start making everybody aware that it's there, how do I say this? I grew up against a woods. My husband actually lived on the other side of the woods when we were growing up. And we used the woods. We used it all the time. We played there. We foraged for stuff. We found crayfish in the little creek that ran through there. It was a great thing. But there were also kids who had BB guns who came and shot the birds. And we had a pond with ducks, and our town fire dam was on that same woods. So kids from all around the town knew the woods was there, but most people that didn't live against it didn't spend a lot of time in it, except to come shoot the birds. Kids made fires in the woods. I'm all for having kids in the woods because it was a huge, wonderful part of my own childhood. And we've always lived against a wooded area almost everywhere we've lived. It's one of the big reasons we bought the house we bought. But I think when you bring kids into the woods, it needs to be done with Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts or somebody who's teaching them respect for what's going on. We don't just, I'm not sure that the paintball kids are those kids. And I'm a little concerned about an activity like that because I think it's bringing in kids who won't have the respect for the fact that there's a fox burrow there, that there are groundhogs and owls and other things. I don't want my woodpecker shot by somebody other than me. You know what I mean? If he's eating my house, my husband may take care of that. I don't know. But the fact is, I'm a little concerned about those kinds of activities coming in that aren't really based on the woods. I mean, there are a million places you can do paintball. You can do it inside. I mean, it doesn't have to be done in a place where we're trying to foster the natural aspects of it. And I know that kids are different now than they were when I was a kid, because I was a kid a long time ago. But I don't think the nature of kids and the mischief that starts out innocent but then becomes a fire. There's a lot of dead wood in those woods, and it concerns me to bring in things that aren't directly related to the conservation and the use of the woods. And parking also is a concern to me. It's, thank you, Gabby. I'm watching her head bobble. But yeah, I think if this is going to be this, and I'm thrilled that there's no other kind of development that can happen back there, because there's certainly access, it could happen, but I'd like to keep it forestry-based, if you will, or nature-based, and I would love to see trails so that people did not end up in my backyard not knowing where to go next. So that's it.
Thank you very much. Yes, please.
I'm RJ Jolly, DPW Director. I'm the one with this great idea. We wanted to involve the residents of the community for one reason, just so we just don't start doing something and no one knows what's going on. No one's a part of it. So we're more looking for what everybody wants. That's the whole reason we put this together. That's why we're bringing everyone together and just hearing other people's ideas. We haven't talked about or planned, any of us that have been involved in this, to bring more people in. We know a lot of residents live along this property, so we're just trying to work with the residents and the people that use this land. So as far as putting a big parking lot in, getting more people to use the forest, there's no plans, no thoughts, no discussion about this. So just so people know that we don't plan on it being Willow Park by any means. We plan on just managing the forest. There's a lot of very mature trees there now that should be harvested. A lot of them have gone by. They're unsafe. You'll see the big splits with 1 liter, wide open. We just want to make a safe forest. The kids are going to work on the forest management plan with whatever ideas everyone comes up with, and work with Corey. Corey's going to come up with a plan, and then we're going to come back to the community. And so we want it to work for everyone. We don't want to make blacktop trails. We want to still woods. As far as any damage done from the logging, we don't want to draw it out for like 6 years with even the school system, because it's going to take a long time. We're just having someone come in, cut what trees are decided to take out. It's like weeding a garden. If you don't weed your garden, that's what you have. You don't get much. If you take out the cull trees, the mature trees, it'll give sunlight to what's around. The town has equipment. We'll go in and make sure all the trails are smooth. We already discussed in our walks through there signage, arrows, even description boards that say this used to be honeysuckle, that's an invasive species. We wanted to, this is what we're going to pull out. So we're not trying to make big changes. We're just trying to improve. We're trying to weed the garden, actually, is all we're up to.
Thank you very much. There was another comment reinforcing the no paintball idea, but I think one of the values of this is that we're open to all ideas, so I don't want anyone to feel like their idea is better or worse than any other, but of course that will all be analyzed as part of this work that the students do in coming up with a plan that will serve us well, we hope. And of course we'll be back to you for your thoughts. So I have some others. I'm concerned about ATV and dirt bike damage on the trails. They are venturing farther into the woods on their machines. So destructive. I wish there was a way to prohibit recreational wheeled vehicles in the Y woods, both motorized and non-motorized. Please, no playground equipment, ever. Put the kiosk on Middle Pownell Road. Repair roads made by forestry efforts. A lot of really great comments and input. Any other thoughts or comments right this moment? Yes, Susan.
I think what I've heard this afternoon from many people
Okay, do you want to come up so they can hear it on the recording for Cat TV?
No, it doesn't matter.
I'll repeat it, so go ahead.
Okay, was that bringing more people in is fine. I think the word that has to stay in everybody's mind is respect. There has to be a maintained level of respect for the environment and the creatures that live there.
Okay, I'm going to try to repeat it back, make sure I got it right. But the thought is that while it's okay to even have more visitation, it's with the caveat that it's respectful visitation so that the character and nature of this wonderful resource is preserved. Did I channel you correctly on that? Okay. Now, if you're watching this recording or you think of an idea later, go to our website, benningtonvt.org. There's numerous places where you'll see a link to the Y Woods under How Do I? Provide input on the Y Woods, under Community, the Y Woods, or on the news, the story about the Y Woods, in the public notices. Okay, I'm going on too much. There's a lot of places you can find this. Or simply search in the search bar for Y Woods, and you'll be able to get to that page, provide your comment, and we really appreciate hearing from all of you. It's terrific to have so many people from the community come out because they care about this incredible resource that we have in our community. And we're hearing loud and clear that we're not going to mess it up, right? So thank you all very much for coming. And again, if you think of another comment you'd like to say, I apologize. I see a couple more. Can I read a couple more comments real quick? Sorry, that was so anticlimactic. I had this perfect finish, and then there's more here. Okay, actually, I'm going to go ahead and include these. Whoever brought these up, is it okay if I just include these in the public comment? Okay, thank you very much. So you did have a chance to speak to those concerns.
Stuff was already said,
Thank you very much. We stand adjourned. Thank you all so much for coming. Really appreciate it.